And welcome to AMAI for Monday, February 5th. Chris and Justin here. This is where we look at stuff that we have found online about AI, new tools, articles, news, that kind of thing, and we see what we think it means. And
And
we look at some reactions to some new stuff.
all right. So episode 1 for today, we'll keep each one topical, is going to be on the hugging face. I sent it to you on 7:42 a.m.
Uh,
Rowan Chung.
all right, here we go. Let's get this open, and then let's open up our screen share here so we can actually see it. All right, here we go. Ron Chung. So Hugging Face just dropped Chat Assistants, the open source version of OpenAI GPTs. Here's what stands out. It's completely free to use and share compared to needing a $20 subscription. Just FYI, like to remember, GPTs are a ChatGPT 4 Pro model thing, so you have to pay. You can select any open source LLMs to run your assistant on. Choose from Mixtral, Llama 2, Meta's new Code Llama 70B, and more. So interesting, right? So we're seeing more and more of these.
Yeah, you'll probably want to scroll through this one.
Compared to OpenAI's, still missing RAG, so that's a big deficiency, right? And you have to imagine it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to do, especially in a free model where you're paying for the $20 a month that you pay for GPT at when you go to ChatGPT and you get the pro version, you're at least somewhat subsidizing the cost of storing the documents for the RAG, right? And so when it's free, there is some storage costs that has to be incurred there. Web search actions in GPT Builder puts it below the custom GPT level for now, for sure, but it's all on the roadmap for the open source competitor, all around a nice free alternative.
So why do I think this is huge? Because a lot of enterprises will not use ChatGPT. They just won't, because they cannot host it themselves. They cannot run it themselves.
Sure.
And so I think this is huge for that very reason.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, for sure, because of the fear of kind of data leakage for training and stuff like that, right? People want to keep it.
No better way than to allow the AI some leeway than to put it inside a box that you own and control.
Yep. Really interesting.
So that's for those who don't use custom GPTs. One, they're amazing, but two, this, I think you will start to see this being adopted in enterprises, especially as these other features get caught up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other thing that's interesting, right, is that it does also show you, I think, that this model of these, how would I describe it, like kind of instances of these LLMs wrapped up in this kind of chatbot form factor as these kind of specialty one-off instances of the LLM. I don't know how else to say it. Is a new model, right? Whereas, well, it's kind of the model where I think this is all going to move. Where originally it was all everybody go to ChatGPT, go to ChatGPT, go to ChatGPT, go to ChatGPT, right? This is really going to change how we interact with these things, where we're going to interact through agents mostly with this stuff at some point, not like going directly to the ChatGPT interface. It's really going to be through these agents that are specialty agents that are trained specifically.
100% agree. And I think, still you and I, if someone asked us what to use, we'd still say ChatGPT every 5 seconds, just because the quality difference. But enterprises don't always have that luxury. And so I think this is a really solid step towards allowing for a more secure B2B level application of AI. So I'm really excited about it. And so that was this first one. Do you want to go to the second link right away on this episode, or do you want to hop to a separate episode?
Oh, let's go ahead and do it. All
right. This next one is going to be more nerdy. From Harishi.
Okay. All right. It's the coolest thing we've ever done, and probably the least sexy demo. This has been my white whale ever since the first release of wishful search. To know if this is even possible, let me explain it. You just watch it work. So modern AI systems being able to do natural language to SQL queries open up a huge world of possibilities. Yep, absolutely. So for those of you that don't know what that means, what that means is talking to something and then having it structure the language to go fetch it from a database, right? We hit the database in a thing called structured query language in certain types of databases where there's a certain way, certain words you have to use, certain way you have to type it in order to grab things from the database, where you have to remember like, oh, I need an asterisk here. I need to use this phrase here. This way you have this natural language interface where you don't have to worry about remembering all that stuff. You can just talk to it, and then it will write the SQL code to go fetch things out of the database for you. So it opened up a huge world of possibilities, obviously, because it makes interacting with databases a lot easier, right? A massive industry that's trying to let you talk to your data. Quote, the problem most businesses encounter is that your data doesn't fit. Most information today is best considered semi-structured, where it sits in Excel sheets, NoSQL, JSON, XML, old databases exposed to the web providers. Very little is in Postgres, in a Postgres DB that you control. Little of that is defined type specs, relationships, right? So
keep going. Yeah, no, we're just
interesting. So therein lies the problem. Structured search AI systems presume that you're starting near the finish line. They're willing to spend time and money migrating to their hosting. Someone needs to build the ETL pipelines. And for the last 4 years in shipping, that's been our job. ETL pipeline, extract, transform, load. Near 40% of our dev time has gone toward building these things. It takes us weeks to do what you just watched happen in less than a few seconds. Think of the past. We can now build completely automated data import pipelines that understand and extract structure, flatten, and import it to be queried by AI and join together as tools, drag and drop. And one more thing. We can build these pipelines with executing model-written code. This is huge for security, for control. Interesting. So I want to see this video now because I don't know that I'm fully understanding what he's talking about, although this is a 12-minute video. So I don't know.
I mean, again, for the three people who might watch this.
Oops. Wait,
this. I can throw in.
What's that? What were you saying?
For the three people who might watch this, they probably care about this kind of crap.
Yeah, maybe. It may be true. So he's got some data here.
Some of these fields even mean, but it's created this beautiful, flat, relational structure, transformed the data, figured out the foreign key relationships, connected it all together. So I can just ask, what's the fastest non-red eye, which is, the most culturally a connected question in terms of what a red eye flight even is. But it figures it out, right? And this is something that I spent a week writing the ETL pipeline for that very first demo of Wishful Search. If you look through the repo, you'll still find my work there. And this is something that we at Gravewing have spent about 40% of our dev time just building pipelines for transforming this data. Now I get an answer, and I can just ask, what's the general distribution of pairs?
Yeah. So it's
because the problem with modern structured search with AI is we really see the power of it because it can take human requirements and convert them to SQL, convert them to ways where we can search the data. And that is perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. But the problem is most data looks like this, right? Most data is either nested JSON or Excel because we don't always own our own data. They sit with providers and you live with the export formats they give you. Most of our data is not sitting inside Postgres, well-structured and well-typed out, even at massive things.
Yeah, interesting. I mean,
someone remind me to congratulate Nick for.
I think what he's talking about in general is, and I don't know if they built something to do this.
I think that's what the whole thing is, that they are taking the non-structured data, converting it to structured data through the AI with AI.
Yeah. I mean, which makes a lot of sense. And it's something that AI is really good at doing, and it can do. I've certainly done this kind of thing before. I think the really interesting trend here is the whole idea that, and I've said this a million times, and I'm going to say this a million times more before we're done with all of this, which is that the idea that you're writing code, the idea that you're writing SQL queries by hand and that kind of thing in the future, hilarious. That is not going to be a thing, right? This is going to cut out the interpretation layer where you can just directly interact with data and information through natural language.
And so I both agree and disagree at the same time, which is a fascinating situation for me to be in. So for those who don't know, I'm like a product manager by heart, right? That's what I love to do. And Justin, how many times have you seen bad software made because the instructions weren't clear?
Oh,
every time, right?
All the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah. So just because we're now talking to an AI instead of a human doesn't change the fact that the interpretation of what we're saying could go in 100 different ways.
Sure.
Now, I'm just going to pick on average, right? Mean, median, or mode, right? Most people probably mean mean, but not everyone knows what they're asking. And so that causes issues. And so, yes, you can just ask, but I still think there's going to be this need for people who understand how to ask, what they're asking, and can verify that what they're getting back makes sense.
So, devil's advocate on that is that I think it will probably be the AI's job to push back and make sure that the user is asking the right question, right? So the AI at some point will be like, okay, you asked for the average. Did you want mean, median, or mode, right? Like, and so I think that there's actually going to be at some point an evolution to where there is a dialogue with you in the system, and the system is making sure that it really understands what you want.
Agreed. I do. I like.
So
eventually, yes, the AI will be like, okay, are you sure this is what you mean, dipshit? Which is like what most product managers do all day, right?
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Which is interesting, right? Because and that is probably, if you think about it, that is probably the point at which we are near or past AGI, because I think the real line that you cross there is when AI acts as an autonomous peer as opposed to a natural language tool, which it is right now.
Yeah, for sure. Too much fun. So that's it for the quick review for this morning, I think, right?
Yep.
Or did you want to look at the quote from
yeah, I'm just going to mention one last thing here, which is that there was a post on Twitter. I think this was over the weekend or it was late last week, where Sam Altman from OpenAI, ChatGPT, said that GPT-4 had a slow start on its New Year's resolutions, but should be now much less lazy now. So I don't know what this means. One thing that we have noticed, I feel like, over the past year is that ChatGPT feels as if it has gotten lazier over time. And we have some theories about that as to whether or not we've just gotten lazier as prompters, or if the model itself has gotten worse, right? But it's interesting that Sam Altman is also acknowledging, yes, it might have been lazy, but it's getting less lazy. So there could be something to it, but it's interesting to see if there's any kind of difference. Now, that said, they haven't released a new model.
Well,
so not sure exactly what that means and how to read that.
So I interpret this as being wrapped around the hardware, because I've hit limitations several times where it said, like, you come back in 2 hours, you've hit your quota.
Yep.
And so and I've seen other people complain about that as well. So I have a feeling it's just like they were at capacity, and so they added capacity.
Yeah. Very possible. Very possible.
So
yeah, very possible.
We'll see. But yeah, I'm sure GPT-5 or AGI will come out this year and blow us all away again.
It will.
Have a good day, everyone.
We'll see you guys.